Hello and welcome. It is another rousing edition of the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast. I am Matt Michaels. Brad Trinago is here. Hello to Brad Trinago.
Hello to you and happy bowl season.
Yes, it is bowl season. Holiday season later, bowl season now, and we're going to talk it over and get you all set for the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl in just a moment with our special guest. We will remind you first that our podcast is brought to you by Shelter Insurance, ranked number one in customer satisfaction for auto insurance in the Central Region by J.D. Power 7 of the last 8 years. We're your shield. We're your shelter. And joining us right now on the podcast is someone who has been familiar with the landscape of football in the Southeast for a long, long time. He's CEO of the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl, also a former athletic director at the University of Georgia. Greg McGarity joins us now on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast. Greg, thanks for taking time with us, and happy bowl season to you.
Thanks, guys. It's a pleasure being with you, and I look forward to having everyone here in sunny Florida during the holidays.
Yeah, that certainly sounds like a positive after the weather that we're dealing with as we record this here in mid-Missouri. Mizzou was announced fairly early on December 7th that it was going to be a Gator Bowl participant, but it took a while to reveal the ACC representative due, it appears, to the fallout from Notre Dame not participating in a bowl. I was just wondering if you could take us behind the scenes a little bit that afternoon while you and your team tried to get all that sorted.
Well, we knew since Alabama stayed up in the college football playoff, we knew Missouri would land here because they could not go back to Nashville since they were there last year. So that was pretty well set right at 12:30 on Sunday. And then the ACC call occurred at 1:30. And as we went through our picks, Orlando picked Notre Dame. We selected Georgia Tech, and then Virginia was going to the West Coast, because those three teams had to really be placed first before any other teams could enter the discussion. So we asked the question, or Steve Hogan asked the question. He said, well, I want to make sure that Notre Dame's going to play the game. And the ACC at that time said, well, let us check with them and see what their status is. And so we went dark for about an hour, which wasn't a good sign. And so when the Zoom resumed, it was made public to us, to the bowl directors, that Notre Dame would not be available. So we had to reshuffle the deck there. And so Orlando then in the Pop-Tarts selected Georgia Tech. We then selected Virginia, and then SMU ended out on the West Coast. So, we figured going in that we'd either have Miami, that Missouri would either be playing Miami or Georgia Tech. One of those two. But since Notre Dame was not in the mix, that sort of changed things around. So, we were hoping we'd have one team that's drivable here, because Miami and Atlanta are only 5 hours away. But needless to say, that's the way things didn't develop. So it sort of got the day off to a choppy start. And but that's where we ended up. And we've got two really good teams, one team ranked and one team trying to establish something that Missouri hadn't done, win 9 games 3 years in a row. So, but the good thing about it, I know Eli is so excited to be here. He said he's made that very public, and we appreciate that on our end. And Coach Elliott, the same thing in Virginia. So it's not that we aren't trying. It's sort of a new day for the bowls that are in our at our level right now.
Yeah, and Greg, you've been around college athletics a long time, so you can maybe speak to it. For any fan that has an idea that this is like the days where you had the very formal invitation from a very dwindling number of bowls, a very exclusive number of bowls once upon a time, of which the Gator Bowl has been a part, by the way, for a very long time as well. Those days have been past for like 5 or 7 years now, right? I mean, it really is a different world in terms of making the matches when it comes to how you get these matchups in bowl season.
Yeah, I think everything changed since the college football playoff came into play, because you still had 6 teams. You still had teams in the mix for the Sugar. If you didn't make the Final Four, you're still playing in a really good bowl game. You're either going to one of the 6 bowls, or really 4 of the 6 bowls, because 2 of them, and then the national championship. But everything just pivoted when teams did not make the playoff. And so it still it created some chaos. It created some misunderstandings. And what you have to really look back in is this is the last year of a 6-year contract that really everyone has with the SEC, ACC, ESPN. And at that time, in 2020, it was the COVID year. So things have changed so much. Think of how much college football has changed in that period of time. We didn't have the transfer portal. We didn't have the rampant kids moving from school to school. Whoever thought these kids would be, really paid athletes, which they are now. It's really semi-pro. It's really like the NFL right now. So the whole dynamic has flipped over a 5-year period. And if we had said this was going to happen back in 2020 when everyone agreed to these deals and said this was what's going to happen, I think we all would have said, there's no way that's going to happen. And lo and behold, here we are in a different world. And so we know there have to be different models going forward, and that'll be discussed certainly during the off season.
Well, it certainly is an interesting time. I mean, you touched on a lot of the changes on one side, but then you look at the flip side at, if you use TV ratings as a measure, interest in events like yours, like the Gator Bowl, has really never been higher. So where do you feel like games like the Gator Bowl fit in college football in 2025?
Well, the one thing for sure is teams, if they're not in the playoff, they all want to come to Florida for the weather. And so we're blessed. And in 2028, we'll have a brand new state-of-the-art stadium that'll probably be the best in the NFL when it hits in 2028. So I think there's always a place. You're always going to have teams that qualify for bowls that don't make it in the college football playoff, whether they're 12 or 16 teams. So there needs to be a place for these other teams to go, because I've always viewed our bowls as honoring your senior class and really focusing on next year. I can't emphasize, I think, how important that is. You get 15 practices on site. When they get here, they've got 2 or 3 days to dust up things, and really they get to hang out with their friends for a week. And Missouri's staying at the Marriott Sawgrass, which is a 5-star resort, only a block away from the ocean, and the weather's going to be great all week. So I view it as a reward on the season. It's time for people to relax a little bit, enjoy their teammates. And for the vast, vast majority of these players, this is their last game. So very few will move up into the pro ranks. So I view it as the last chance for these guys. And really, these games are for people that really love football and want to play. I've always viewed it, if some of these guys don't want to play and with a fear of getting hurt, they're going to live in fear all the time. I think Kirby Smart said it best is, people have been playing football since they've been in Pee Wee leagues. And so this may be the final chapter, but we saw Jackson Dart play every snap last year, and I think made his way into a first-round pick by the Giants, as well as Walter Nolan played every snap on the defensive line, 2 first-round draft picks. So there's no doubt that sent the message to NFL owners that these kids want to play football, and they're not worried about getting hurt. Hell, they could get hurt in a practice. So I understand those that are fearful, but I kind of lean toward those kids that really want to play. And the first stringers don't want to play. You got 100 kids on this team. I promise you, there's some walk-ons, there's some third stringers that would absolutely love to be able to hit that playing field. So that's the way I view it, and have always viewed it as a positive instead of focusing on those kids that aren't here. Don't focus on them. Focus on the kids that are here.
Well, the good part about this matchup is it sounds like Missouri and Virginia will have a lot of their regular contingent ready, willing, and able to play in the game. Going back to something you mentioned about Everbank Stadium, I think that your bowl is unique. I believe it's only the Rose Bowl, the Sun Bowl, and the Gator Bowl that can say, we've played this game at one spot for a long time, because Everbank Stadium has built up around the field in which this game has been played. I'm sure that's something that's really special to you as you go out into the community and to Jacksonville as a whole, in saying, like, this is something that we've done a long time and done really, really well here.
Well, this is our 81st year of the Gator Bowl, and so it really is a fixture in the community. It's viewed very similar to the Georgia-Florida game that's here every year. There'll be one year in 2027 we'll have to move this game to Gainesville for 1 year, because the Jags won't be able to play in the stadium either in 27 as they prepare for the next for the 28 season. So it is something that's a tradition here. It's a game. I think it's going to be. I think it's been rated as high as the third best non-CFP game. You got two teams that respect each other. You know, Tony and Eli are good friends. They go back to their ACC days. It's a great venue. You know, it's where these kids want. A lot of them want to play in the NFL, and they're able to play in an NFL stadium. And with the Jags, with the success they've had so far this year, you know, the community is really pumped up, and we hope that translates into people coming and watching the game.
This is not a one-day per year job for you. What do you and your team work on in the months leading up to the Gator Bowl?
Well, we are really we're a not-for-profit, and so we are really engaged in local charities here in town. I mean, we spend the majority of our time facilitating what we call a dream team, which is 12 young people that have health challenges. We adopt them as many members, committee members. We have over 300 committee members and corporate sponsors that participate in Gator Bowl sports. And they really join because of the community effort, all the goodwill we do in the community. And oh, by the way, we have a football game too. But we have grown our membership. It's extremely popular here because, again, the game's important. It's where we generate our revenue, but it's only a part of what we do. So we spend a good bit of time on this game, obviously, but you know, when we roll into January and February, we host college baseball in March. We have Florida versus Florida State. We do so many things, committee meetings. It's a huge networking opportunity for the leaders in our community. So many things other than the game, but the game obviously is important and drives our ability to stay alive financially. But we do so many other things in the community that we're so proud of.
Well, and those things, you know, lead up in the week to a game. There's always, you know, appearances for the teams, opportunities for them to get out and enjoy each other's company, certainly get out and enjoy the beach this time of year. The weather should be really, really nice, I understand, in Jacksonville over the next couple of weeks. Give us a snapshot of what the week looks like, the build up to a bowl game like yours.
Well, Matt, we don't want to overschedule these young men. They came to relax in a beautiful environment, and we really only have two events while they're here that are not mandatory, but they're highly encouraged. And one of them's an hour and a half at Topgolf after practice, and then on Christmas Day they've been invited to our Navy base Mayport, to where they're able to spend about an hour on a destroyer or whatever ship is in port. So I've done that. I've gone on to the naval base twice, and I'm amazed at the enormity of it. I'm amazed at the men and women that are there serving our country. And so it's something different. It's not every day you get to be on a destroyer and learn a little bit about the capacity it has and the commitment. It makes you feel good about our military. But, you know, we don't want to overschedule. They need to enjoy the environment, enjoy each other. Don't be on a bunch of buses. Our practice site at University of North Florida is only probably a 10-minute drive from the hotel. So, you know, I've been in it enough to know that you don't want to overschedule. Let people relax, have time at night, hang out with their friends, go out and grab a bite to eat, but just kind of chill for a few days until you ramp up the day before the game and get ready to play.
For Tiger fans who think that relaxed environment sounds pretty appealing to them, what are some things that they could check out besides the beach and the weather? What are some other things that might be of interest?
Well, I would tend to encourage them to head to the beach. We've got you go from Ponte Vedra Beach, Jacksonville Beach, to Neptune Beach, to Atlantic Beach. They all run together, and there are tremendous venues there. There are tremendous areas to shop. The food and beverage opportunities are off the chart. So, you know, downtown is somewhat limited in its. We're rebuilding downtown essentially, and they do a great job downtown. But a lot of people spend so much time out at the beach where these teams are, because that's where you come to Jacksonville to hang out at the beach during the Christmas holidays, and if you're right there, steps away, come visit, because it's a great place to visit, and go attend the game on Saturday night and have a blast as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that the weather wouldn't beat at this time either. I mean, you can think about a day maybe in the snow and the rain, or a day at the beach. I know which one I would pick, Greg.
Yeah. Well, Here's what it looks like. I don't know if that's in focus or not, but we've got
Maybe read it off to us.
well, we've got the day the teams get here on Tuesday is 71. It's all sunny all week, so the highs are 71, 72, 71, 73. On game day it's 72, and unfortunately we have a low of 51. So it's certainly shorts, flip flops, and t-shirts, and that's what we want these kids to do. Instead of they can leave the sweatsuits home.
As Matt mentioned, you're former athletic director at Georgia, so you're very familiar with major college football. Your bio online says you're a former member of the Aisle 10 crew. Can you educate us on what the Aisle 10 crew is?
During college, there were several of our buddies that got together, and we sat in back then in Sanford Stadium at Aisle 10. And so we had a group of about 15 guys that went to high school together and went to college together. And so we all, back then, seating wasn't as tight as it is right now. We were able to kind of pick where we sat. So we hung out together, called ourselves the Aisle 10 crew, and we traveled to road games. And back then, before cell phones, we had a lot of fun. Okay, I'll leave it at that. But it's a group of guys that still get together. We're all in their 70s now. So we all stick together and still stay in touch with each other. But we have a lot of laughs at it because we had some great, great times back in the 70s and 80s.
That sounds like a good time indeed, Greg. Now that we're approaching the game and it seems that the rosters are coming into focus, how do you look at this thing? I see two teams that I can point to one side or the other and see a lot of similarities in how they try to win football games. What do you see in terms of the matchup between Missouri and Virginia?
I see a lot of rushing. I know Virginia focuses on that. I know I watched their ACC championship game, and their drives took forever. Okay. And I know Eli likes to run the ball and mix it up with passing too. So I'm not sure how long the game is going to last if they both resort to running. But I just think you've got two quality teams that are very, very well coached. Eli, what he's done at Missouri, I mean, you think back, and I know there have been some great coaches there, but he set it in a new tone. What they've done on campus with their stadium is absolutely dynamic. I was at Georgia, the very first SEC game for Missouri back in, it might have been 2014, 2015. And what it looked like then and what it looks like now is absolutely amazing. And it just speaks to the progress that the school is making as far as expenditures into football. Is showing up. You got a great coach who's established, and he's going to be with you for a few years. And so I'm really happy to see that development and see all the resources that have been devoted to football and other sports come to fruition and really have something fantastic. And, Virginia, they've got a chance to win 11 games for the first time in school history. They hadn't been to a bowl since 2019. So this is all new territory for this group of kids, even though Tony was at Clemson for a number of years and played at Clemson. So he's actually played in the Gator Bowl before. So there's a little bit more familiarity with Tony here than probably Eli. Last time Missouri here was 1973. So I'm not sure Eli was around in 73. So, but it speaks well to both schools, both institutions, and Laird's done a great job at Virginia and Marcy as well. And also Carla Williams, my former lieutenant at the University of Georgia, is now the AD at Virginia. So I'll have some fun with her while she's here too with her family.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the most important thing to note here, Greg, is that when it comes to this matchup, you can still get there yourself. You got a week to figure it out. Maybe take a quick jet down during or after the Christmas holiday. I mean, Christmas in Florida is not bad. I've done it quite a few times. Not bad at the beach on December the 25th. So for fans who are interested, I know that your website is taxslayergatorbowl.com. There's a ticket link right there for information, and folks can learn a lot more about what the week and the day of the game entails in Jacksonville.
Absolutely. And we don't plan a lot again because downtown is from the beaches is probably a 20-minute drive. It's a straight shot. Easy transportation during these Christmas holidays, especially on Saturday the 27th. The Jags are out of town. We're the only show in town. ABC is televising the game 7:30, so we've got a great window there. And a lot of things are coming into play, but we're just expecting a great week of weather, two teams that really, really want to be here, which is so refreshing now when you have so many teams that perhaps don't want to go or things of that nature. I look at it as a 180-degree swing here where two teams that are really chomping at the bit to get here.
Yeah, a top 25 matchup, which you don't necessarily get outside of the playoff either these days, which is really, really cool. Greg, I would go down memory lane about that time you came to Columbia with the Bulldogs, but that really went the Dogs' way, so I don't think we have enough time for you to gloat about the victory that day. But we do appreciate you being with us here on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast. Again, Greg McGarity is CEO of the TaxSlayer Gator Bowl and also former athletic director at the University of Georgia, kind enough to join us on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast. We certainly appreciate the time. Happy holidays and Merry Christmas to you and all your staff and your folks down in Jacksonville, and we can't wait to be there for the big game on the 27th.
Good deal. Thanks, Matt. Thanks, Brad. Y'all have a very, very Merry Christmas, okay?
Yes, and you too. That's Greg McGarity. Brad and I will be back with some more fun for you after you hear from our friends at Shelter Insurance.
This episode of Mizzou Storytellers on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast is brought to you by Shelter Insurance. Ranked number 1 in customer satisfaction for auto insurance in the Central Region by J.D. Power 5 out of the last 6 years. We're your shield. We're your shelter.
And our podcast is also powered by Socket. Socket Fiber is now available. It is the fastest, most reliable internet. Combined with local service and simple billing, contact Socket today for voice data and internet services for your home and business. 1-800-SOCKET3 or visit socket.net. And a reminder that comedian Nate Bargatze is coming to Mizzou Arena on February 21st for his Big Dumb Eyes World Tour. Purchase your tickets on Ticketmaster now.
Faster than the straight drive from the beach to downtown Jacksonville, apparently, Socket Fiber Internet.
It might be. I mean, the beaches are not all that far away, but Jacksonville is at the mouth of a river, and
it's a little spread out. It's a little
and the entire area is
Isn't it the
massive.
Biggest city in the United States?
Yeah, by land area, I think it is the biggest actual incorporated city in the United States.
So plenty to explore if you make the trip down leading up to the Gator Bowl.
And I believe that actually the Tigers, since they're staying down in Ponte Vedra, will be away from that. The place he mentioned they're staying is really nice. PGA headquarters is not too far away. I'm going to see if I can find like somebody's discarded putter on the side of the road and bring it back home with me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, it can't hurt.
Thank you.
It's a little short game joke.
Appreciate it so much. So we've got the game coming up, and we'll talk more about it in our holiday week edition, which will be Brad and I just speaking on a Zoom call because we don't want to give anybody else the trouble. We do have a guest for you, though. We'll let that be revealed to you in time. We'll have that be the cliffhanger. The one thing we can say about the game, though, is that a consensus All-American will absolutely be playing in the game. Ahmad Hardy's been named to the first team of all 4 of the major lists that have been revealed. So the AFCA, the Walter Camp Foundation, the Associated Press, and also the Sporting News. They all release All-American lists. Ahmad Hardy has been first-team running back on all of those lists. At the time we record this, the Football Writers Association of America has not. Were he to be named to the first team on that list, he would be a unanimous first-team All-American, which is, at least in the modern times, in the 2000s, basically, that's the 5 that they consider, which would be an incredible honor and well-deserved for him in, again, just a sophomore season. Again, splitting a significant amount of time, not being just the bell cow back for Missouri's attack, to be able to do what he has done. He showed every bit of promise Tiger fans had for him and then some in Missouri's offense, and it's great that it sounds like, by all indications, we will see him on the field in Jacksonville on the 27th.
Basically, the consensus nationally is that he's one of the 2 best running backs in America, and I think that Mizzou fans would agree with that. He had a terrific year, exceeded the pretty high expectations that I think we had for him coming in. When you looked at his numbers at Louisiana Monroe, it's like, man, if he could give you 80-90% of that at the SEC level, then that would be awesome. And he went way beyond that, even what he did at ULM. So yeah, he's been the star. He was the best player on the team. I think that's pretty fair to say, and it's great to see him get this kind of recognition.
And we've seen Keegan Trost on some of these lists too, and other Missouri Tigers, whether it be first team or second team, recognized for being truly outstanding. And it's probably easy, or easier if you've got a running back that's on the list to be a tackle on the list. And what a story for Keegan Trost, by the way, who wasn't necessarily set in his position when this whole thing started back in camp, and took a job, ran with it, and has graded out consistently this year as one of the best offensive tackles in the country.
Certainly has, yeah. If you look at Pro Football Focus rankings, he's been one of the dudes there at that right tackle spot, and really provided some stability for a unit that had its ups and downs. I think it's fair to say this year, but Trost was definitely a bright spot.
Yeah, so we will see what all of the fun honors look like at the end of it all. There are too many at this time of year, and it's great for Missouri to be gaining extra recognition on these lists, because you always want to be able to tell someone that everybody else liked my work. Why don't you, if you need to look at it in the mirror? So that is really, really cool. We are, of course, in the middle of winter, more or less. I mean, it's kind of rainy and whatever today.
It felt like it a little bit at times. Yeah, I believe technically winter starts in a couple of days, but
okay,
I'll roll with it.
That counts for me
I'll
as
roll with
winter,
it. Right.
which means it's hoop season. We have seen Missouri come back after a couple of losses to Notre Dame and Kansas, and they've done what has been necessary for them, which is to bounce back with pretty convincing wins, I would say. I think the game against Bethune-Cookman might have been most convincing. They took care of their business on a Sunday afternoon. And now right around the corner, we know is a matchup with the Fighting Illini, who are getting overseas players at midseason apparently eligible. They are adding to what I will affectionately call the Eastern Bloc. There is a lot of names that you need to know. Just go back to old Tony Kukoc highlights and remember yourself there. They're really, really good, and we know that Brad Underwood has a good team every season, and it kind of takes on, I feel, an extra importance in this men's basketball season, because, boy, you would really love a non-conference pelt on the wall when it comes to your tournament resume outside of SEC play, not to denigrate the win against Minnesota, but Illinois is the last best chance to get that done for Missouri, and it will give you a margin that you might not otherwise have if you can get that win when it comes to your league play, which is going to be rugged.
Mike Kelly and Chris Trevino are going to earn their money on Monday, just making sure they have the pronunciations correct for all those Illinois folks. But, yeah, it's a really talented Illini bunch. As of early this week, they were number 13 in the net, so you mentioned the opportunity for a high-quality win, and this would certainly be that. Illinois' only losses to Alabama, UConn, and a surprisingly undefeated Nebraska team, at least as of this recording. They're unbeaten. The Cornhuskers already have wins against Texas Tech and Tennessee. They're scoring 88 points per game, which is interesting when you contrast that with how efficient Mizzou has been offensively this year. They're number 2 in the country, I believe, in field goal percentage. So certainly the potential for a shootout in this game. And yeah, Mizzou still looking for that, high-quality win on the resume, and bragging rights would certainly help accomplish that.
I think it's entirely possible that Missouri would prefer to have a shootout than a half-court matchup right now. They always talk about wanting to get out in transition, and I think they have the athletes to make it happen. And if it's an up-and-down game and Mark Mitchell can play something like 30 minutes in the contest or 30-plus minutes and be efficient, I mean, we could see him have a really great game, because I'm really interested to see how Illinois chooses to defend him, and if Missouri can adjust to the way that others at this level have chosen to defend Mitchell, pass out of it, and make it so that you make teams pay for trying to overcompensate against the guy who can score at will once he's in the paint.
Well, you need people on the outside to make them pay, and Jacob Cruz has been certainly providing that this year. He scored 20 more in the win against Bethune-Cookman, so that's 4 times in the last 5 games he's scored at least 20 points, and in a good chunk of those games he's coming off the bench, right? And he's just really provided a big spark. He's still over 50% from 3 heading into the bragging rights game, so he's top 5 in the country in that respect. So it's going to take a lot of Mitchell with the bully ball on the inside. It's going to take people like Cruz hitting shots on the outside, and it's going to take all you got, because I think it's pretty fair to say this is the best team Mizzou has faced so far this season, even better than Kansas.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Also, a difference maker in this game, based on the way he's played in the last couple, could be Ant Robinson. He has been very deliberate about getting himself offensively in the paint and defensively being disruptive and being the lockdown guy that we know he can be. And if Anthony Robinson can stomach playing for, again, 35 minutes of this contest, which maybe he'll be asked to do if he's playing well, he can do a lot to disrupt Illinois offensively right at the point of attack, try to get some steals and easy runouts. I think he's a very important key to this whole matchup because for a team that is so balanced and talented and deep as Illinois is, well, maybe you just cut off the head of the snake and let Robinson be that disruptor. It might be worth him taking some risks in this basketball game to try to get out, get some easy points, and see if Missouri can build a lead that way.
Well, that's the challenge when it comes to Anthony Robinson, right? Because he can be whenever it's clicking, like you said, it just completely disrupts everything that an opposing offense is trying to do. But when those gambles don't pay off and you get into foul trouble, then you can't play him because he's dealing with foul issues. And then, if he's not on the floor, obviously he can't be a big contributor for you. And especially when you have, like a Jaden Stone not available still as he continues to work his way back from injury. So you're a little bit thin in the backcourt. It's striking that balance, which is kind of always is with Anthony Robinson. But yeah, if Mizzou gets the good Anthony Robinson, I think back to last year's Kansas game and how much of a role he played. Tamar Bates was the star of that game. He scored 30, but Anthony Robinson was so good in that game too. And if you get that kind of Anthony Robinson, then yeah, you absolutely have the chance to pull off the upset.
And speaking of teams that would like to have strong performance into the new year, you can take that right to Missouri women's basketball. A 10-3 club coming off of a really solid win at St. Louis, 82-66. It was kind of a pull away in the end, Brad, despite the fact that the Tigers had themselves an early hole in that matchup. They fought back with a vengeance, and now carry a mark into their final two non-conference matchups here of this year, North Alabama and Kansas City, where they can post a number in terms of victories. And it suddenly looks a lot more realistic than maybe it did at the beginning of this journey based upon the teams that they have beaten and some of the names that they honestly have wins over, to say, okay, we can find our way through this Southeastern Conference schedule and maybe navigate ourselves to a spot where we can be an inclusion in the field in year one under Kelly Harper.
At least in terms of the net rankings, it's looking like there's a chance that North Alabama and Kansas City are going to be the two worst teams that Mizzou has played in non-con. So you have a really good opportunity to kind of maybe work on yourself a little bit more here, make sure you've got things tuned up before you have just a ridiculous start to SEC play. It's 3 teams in the top 13 in the country right now, and 2 of those games are on the road. And the one at home is Texas, which might be the national champion by the time this season's all said and done. So it's a really challenging start to conference play. You got 2 more shots to line things up the next 2 Sundays, North Alabama and then Kansas City, both those games at home. But yeah, I think there was a lot of encouraging stuff from the game against SLU. I mean, Mizzou has had a couple trips recently, east to Chaffetz Arena that have not gone very well. And this game did not start very well either, to be honest. Got down 8-0, immediately responded with a 17-2 run. We've seen Chloe Sotel continue to emerge as she's worked her way into the starting lineup. She's rebounding a ton lately, which has been really encouraging because it adds on to the fact that she's a really good outside shooter and an excellent and very skilled just offensive player in general. Jayla Smith is doing everything coming off the bench for Mizzou, leads the team in blocks and steals, and has also been their most efficient offensive player. So you're getting contributions from folks like that to go around, Grace Slaughter and Shannon Dowell, who have kind of been the big 2 for this team pretty much all season. So yeah, a lot of opportunities there to try and get right over the next, 80 minutes of play. And then, in the SEC right now, 8 conference teams are in the top 25, and 2 others are receiving votes just outside the poll. So what that means is if you can get to 12-3, and then if you can find a way to 8-8 in this conference, you're absolutely in, no question. Even 7-9 might be enough to do it. The question is, can you continue to level up, as this women's team I feel like has done since October? If they can continue to level up a little bit, find a way to steal a game or 2 along the way, then yeah, maybe you can put yourself in that conversation.
Well, let's think of 7-9, and let's say that if it goes that way, because I think the expectation almost anymore in the SEC is, yeah, it's a real struggle to fight to be 500, and if you find your way above 500, you're a really, really good team. So let's just say 7-9. you make a 7-9 resume really, really strong if you win one of those first 3 conference matchups, as you mentioned, against the top 13 team. And whether it's Texas at home or you find a way to get Kentucky or Vanderbilt on the road, you very quickly establish yourself as someone who's going to be fighting for those spots in the middle of the league, which is probably on its reputation going to get a kind eye from the committee, I would argue, by the time the season, comes to selection time.
Mizzou starts and ends with 3-game stretches against teams that are currently in the top 15 in the country. So they start conference play, Texas, Kentucky, Vanderbilt. They end conference play with South Carolina, LSU, Oklahoma. So I mean, if you can win even one of those 6, you've given yourself an opportunity, and you've given yourself a win for the committee to look at for sure. But yeah, the start and the end of this conference run are going to be really, really difficult. Can Mizzou pick up some wins in kind of that middle stretch, which is, relatively soft. It's not soft, but it's relatively soft. Can you gain some ground there and get yourself in the conversation? We'll see.
Yeah, and we'll see starting against North Alabama on Sunday, and you can enjoy all of that at Mizzou Arena. Mizzou Wrestling will update you on their first conference duel at Northern Iowa. Didn't end up the Tigers' way. It was a 22-14 defeat. Going up to Cedar Falls in wrestling is not a given in any year, and it hasn't been for Missouri teams even historically when they've wrestled at UNI. So the Tigers will now get some time to regroup as they head to the new year. The Soldier Salute in Iowa City will see some Missouri wrestlers on January 3rd and the 4th, and then at Arizona State for a Big 12 road duel at Utah Valley. Big 12 road duel. They won't actually be back in a Big 12 matchup at home until the Pokes come to town on January the 23rd, which we know will have great interest, as it always does. So certainly some things to work on, but you're still nationally ranked. You will still be nationally ranked, presumably going into the new year, and you'll have opportunities to really build as you go in the back half of what has been this preposterously difficult schedule for Missouri wrestling this season.
When you can see from the way that the people that put the top 25 together for college wrestling, it's clear they appreciate what Mizzou is doing in terms of the strength of their schedule, because they're sitting around 500 in terms of duels, and they were still in the top 15 heading into that Northern Iowa duel. So I mean, they're somebody it's understood that, hey, they're doing a really hard thing here. Went to Northern Iowa, won 4 out of the 10 in the duel. Aiden Sinclair continues to have a phenomenal year. He's second in the nation at 184 pounds. He got a win by tech fall there. So yeah, you try and build for whatever positives you can, hopefully get a little bit healthier over the break also, and then make your trip to Iowa City in early January and see how it goes.
Absolutely. Mizzou Gymnastics has had its trial run inside Mizzou Arena for the black and gold intra-squad. That happened on the 12th. Kimara Eccles will have to know her name. She won the all-around. 39.6 is an all-around title. I know that Shannon Welker afterwards mentioned the numbers of 9/8 that were put down was very encouraging. He seemed to be very happy with the results. I have remembered black and gold meets in the past in which a 9/8 would not have been a number you saw. So clicking on all cylinders for a team that has its highest preseason rank ever, 7th in the WCGA preseason poll, I think just continues to speak to what has already been built. And now what Missouri is trying to do in this gymnastics season, let's be frank, is to not just be in that Final Four again, but they want to be consistent enough throughout the season that they can have a realistic shot at being the last team standing. That's the next step to take, and it has to start with good performance, I think. Even in an intra-squad in December that nobody may be watching, you have to establish those habits now if you want to go against the cream of the crop in collegiate gymnastics and have a chance to win it all.
Matt is wearing gold in honor of the gold squad winning that,
of course,
that black and gold duel for is it duels? I guess do you call it a duel whenever
I think it's a meet,
intra-squad meet. Yeah, so yeah, gymnastics, like you mentioned, number 7 in the WCGA preseason poll. That's the highest preseason ranking in the history of the program, so that's pretty cool. Actually got multiple first place votes in the country, so that's where Mizzou is starting to be perceived after that third place finish nationally a year ago, and bringing in even more really high level talent, like you mentioned, a newcomer winning in the all around. All 9 SEC gymnastics teams are in the preseason top 12. All nine are in the top 12 in the nation. It's just crazy.
They've cornered the market.
Yeah, so to be they're number 7 nationally, and they're like middle of the pack when it comes to the SEC. It's just incredible. But yeah, the move to Mizzou Arena, I think that's going to be a lot of fun for folks. And starting with Iowa State for sure on January 4th, a team receiving votes, I believe, in that preseason top 25. But when we get into conference action, and if Mizzou is still at this level where it really feels like Shannon Welker has this program, I think it's going to lead to a lot of excitement inside the new home of the Tigers, and then beyond from that into the postseason.
Well, again, if you want to go after number one, you have to have some standouts. You need to have depth because of the way teams are scored, but you need to have standouts. Rayleigh Jackson won the vault in the inter-squad with a 9.9. Kaya Tanskinen won the uneven bars with a 9.95. A 9.95 from Eccles, Jackson, and Tanskinen on beam. So the team scored a 39.7 on balance beam. Like, you have to have numbers like that if you want to put yourself in the place where people voted you number one before the season, and they had a reason. Like, there's a lot of talent for Shannon Welker and his team. And the consistency, avoiding injury, being available, and the depth that will be required to perform all season to get themselves in a place where they can be a favorite, or heaven forbid, maybe even have people on their home floor to start an NCAA tournament run. Like, those sorts of things need to be established right from the jump. And I think it was very, very impressive that Missouri appears to have done that in its first doesn't count, but we get to see them competition. Like, that is important to me because it establishes what they're capable of going forward.
It's really you, dang it.
It's important. Doggone it.
Well,
you have to be so good. You can't make any mistake ever in this sport. And they didn't make many in their first time out.
I made a 20-year-old internet reference there that probably 5 people got that are listening.
I didn't get it.
But it is a reminder, though, with gymnastics that, just a reminder that generally they start, the scores are lower, and then you're trying to build up, and you see the scores increase as you go. So to already have some of those 9.9s and 9.95s that you touched on, I would agree with you that that's really cool to see.
We're going to be talking a lot about gymnastics this season. We have plans to have Coach Welker on very shortly here on the podcast, and you will hear all about it because they've got themselves in position. They have themselves a chance. Stay healthy, stay good, stay talented, and a lot of good things can happen for Mizzou gymnastics over the course of this season. There must be other things for Brad Trinago to tell us about right now.
One thing I did want to recognize on the Mizzou volleyball front, senior libero Maya Sands was a coach's third-team All-American, outside hitter Kaylin Alexander, and honorable mention All-American. So congratulations to both of them. Sands, she was honorable mention All-American last year, moves up a little bit. 3-time SEC Libero of the Year, finished with exactly 2,000 career digs, which is just satisfying for me as someone who's into numbers to see something to wind up exactly even. But Sands was phenomenal ever since she's come to Columbia. Alexander was also an honorable mention All-American last year at Hawaii. She comes over, leads Mizzou in kills in 2025. So congratulations to both of them for their accomplishments.
Yeah, absolutely. And Alexander has signed with Leonas de Ponce, so she will be a Leona in Ponce, Puerto Rico. And we just saw Maya Sands just signed with LOVB Houston, so she'll play as a pro this next season as well. And you need to have pros coming through your program to compete in the SEC. Don Sullivan has that and will continue, I am certain, here in what is going to be a nice little stretch for Mizzou volleyball to keep fighting in probably the deepest volleyball country in the nation right now.
Well, and a nice
volleyball conference, not country. I think the SEC, by what we've just mentioned in the last two segments, could consider itself its own country, should it so choose.
Shout out to Puerto Rico, but yeah, I agree with you on that part. And just college volleyball in general, I think there's a lot of growth opportunity just with that sport. As we're recording this, we don't know the results of the national semifinals and finals that'll be taking place in Kansas City, but it's clear that the interest continues to shoot up, even when a Nebraska-type team gets shockingly beaten, but they were beaten by an SEC team, so it speaks to the depth of the league.
I actually spoke to a Nebraska volleyball fan last night, and said fan remains in shock. They had dropped 7 sets all year long, and Texas A&M got them on their floor.
I was telling someone, I was talking to Kathy Wiesen about that, my women's basketball analyst who works with me on the broadcast. That day, I was talking about she mentioned something about volleyball, and I said, yeah, it's cool, it's a fun sport to watch, but really everybody's just getting exercise because Nebraska's going to roll through that thing. And then literally like that day they end up getting knocked out. So Kathy once again ended up being right, and I was wrong on whether Nebraska would face a test. Boy, they sure did. And shout out to the Aggies, and 2 SEC teams in the national semifinals is a big accomplishment.
I think that Kathy will be very satisfied that we have you on tape saying that she was right and you were wrong.
Not the first time that I'm on the record as being loud wrong.
How humble for our good friend Brad Trinaco. Well, we thank you so much for listening to the podcast here today. It's about all the time we have. Thanks as well to Danielle Bartko, doing a great job producing for us as always, and thanks to Greg McGarity. Go ahead, TaxSlayerGatorBowl.com is the website. Go get your tickets. Sounds like it's going to be a nice week. Spend some time on the beach, enjoy some football, and we'll talk a lot more about this matchup with the Virginia Cavaliers coming up on next week's holiday edition. For now, he's Brad Trinago, and I'm Matt Michaels saying thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on the Inside Mizzou Athletics podcast.